Welcome, Lexi. Thank you so much for agreeing to take on this opportunity, for getting involved with the community, the Wisdom Quest community. We've opened this up to the members because at the end of the day, I feel it's so empowering for each of us, no matter where we are in our life journey, or whether we're busy starting a business or we're already doing something in our life that's already bringing us whatever joy, or whether we're still working on our passion or trying to discover our purpose, whatever it may be, for us to be able to come together and talk and just open up and see where that leads us. Because at the end of the day, we can't do this alone. We're not meant to be going through life on our own. It's just not our natural state as human beings. And secondly, as a community, we really need to get to know each other in order to be able to network and work together and better serve one another. And so I'm excited about it because I feel this is such a great opportunity for us all just to get to know each other. So thank you so much for agreeing to step up and talk about yourself a little bit and share a bit of your wisdom.
Thank you, Lisha. It's always wonderful to spend time in your presence and your extraordinary wisdom, which has
Oh,
helped me so enormously in my
thank you.
journey.
Thanks, Lex. Right. First of all, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little bit of your background, Lexi, and walking us through your background to where you are now and possibly the vision of where you see yourself going.
So, Lisha, I am in my early 50s. My name is Lexi. I'm living in Johannesburg, South Africa at the moment. And actually 9 years ago, my life changed enormously. I chose to leave my marriage after 15 years. And that pivoted me into a new stage of my life where I really began to emerge and rediscover myself. I had forced myself into a little box to try and be the perfect wife and mother. And I realized that I had forgotten who I was. So it's been 8 years of really rediscovering me. And it's been a journey of gathering wisdom, gathering as much knowledge as I can to try and elevate myself to the level of where I would love to be. And it's been an immensely difficult journey. And I can look back now on that path and realize that I would really love to help people that were in that dark, scary, scary place that I was 9 years ago. And impart some of the knowledge that I've gained along the way. So I feel so much more confident, so much more in touch with myself, so much more courageous than I did back then. And I suppose it's been almost a return to my core and my true being, which has been enormously satisfying. And I think, and Lisha, you'll agree with this, learning is just continual. It's always something that we can, we can gather and gain. And I'm grateful that I have that voracious sense of wanting to learn more and more and more and more.
100%, I do agree. Learning and unlearning. I'm
Well,
unlearning
exactly.
a lot of habits that don't serve me,
Absolutely.
self-beliefs, all these things. I've got to unlearn those and chuck those out and pretty much burn them. And then learning new habits and new, I would say, not necessarily just habits, but taking my consciousness to a place of going, hold on a second, I don't always have to look outside of me for the answers. I've got to now start looking within to my own knowing. And that's also a lovely place to be. And it's also a new type of learning, you know. So I 100% understand where you're at with that. And I absolutely love what you said when you said, um, and I can relate to when you said you'd forgotten who you were. I felt exactly the same way. Also, I remember, you know, you and I met, Lexi, when we were learning about online business, and there was an exercise we had to do there to discover our passions. And I remember feeling really down after doing that exercise because I realized that I'd forgotten what my passions were, that I don't even think I had very many of my own passions in my life because I'd put so many people um, and their well-being in front of mine. So it kind of dropped all or anything that I felt passionate about. So when you say that and you talk about your return to me with regards to you actually returning to yourself, I can 100% relate to that feeling. And I feel that's such a powerful offering for so many women out there going through, like you say, that dark space. In your case, it was after a divorce. I think people have these in different types of scenarios that occur in their lives. But after a divorce, where you say you've sort of put yourself in this box, suddenly now you have to rediscover yourself. It's a whole new thing. So, can you tell me a little bit more about your return to me? Just briefly, let's touch on that. I'd love to learn more.
Yes, so when I was, and just sorry, going back to what you were saying, I almost feel like it's a deep remembering of who I am. As you say, it's forgetting, but it's also remembering that essence. And really, I suppose, living authentically. I think the big shock for me when I emerged from the trauma of divorce was that I actually just couldn't remember what brought me joy. I couldn't remember what I loved. I couldn't remember anything really that made me feel elevated and made me feel independent in my own identity. So I think what I also realized, there was a lot of sort of the understanding me and understanding what I wanted and remembering who I was. But there was also an element of really handling the emotional aspect of what I was going through, which I think affects so many people. We all deal with trauma, we all deal with traumatic experiences. And something that's really come to the fore in the last, I would say, probably the last 5 or 6 years is understanding your nervous system and how you deal with trauma and how you store it in your body. So there was this whole holistic view of how I had healed myself through reading online, through listening to motivational speakers, to reading more about my nervous system. And I realized that I almost had a pathway where I could assist people that were in the place that I was in 2016 to emerge out of that. And I felt this huge sense of uh, passion about sharing that information and helping people, almost like I was lending a hand and leading somebody out of the darkness. And I almost felt it was incumbent on me to share the tidbits of that journey that took me 8 or 9 years. I think that if I had had a pathway like the one I'm suggesting for people that maybe join my community in the future, perhaps you could do that in 2 or 3 years. It wouldn't take as long because I would highlight the steps that you need to do to reestablish your agency and your sovereignty and your innate power, which as women we have in so many ways, and we forget. So yeah, it's multifaceted, but I really do feel a sense of calling to help people that are in that dark space.
Wonderful. Such a great calling. So thank you for just going for that and following that. But what led us to this discussion today was when we connected at some point and I asked you, would you be willing to open up? And you were like, oh my goodness, I've realized that I can't do everything at once. I've got to, I can build my online business, but it's going to have to come when the time is right. At the moment, I've got to focus on what I'm doing as my sort of like day job, you know? And I thought that is just such powerful wisdom just in and of itself. Focusing on the one thing is, and people have written books about this. In fact, I don't know if you've heard about The One Thing. It was written by He's also involved with property. His name's Gary Keller, and he wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Agent and the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And he speaks about this concept of focusing on the one thing and using the 80-20 principle. And it's such a powerful thing. Even my 14-year-old son has read it, and he literally starts his day with that. What can I focus on today that's going to be I only have to do sort of 20% of all the stuff out here to bring me the most value, the best result. And I think a lot of the time, me specifically, I lose focus of that. And I kind of do all these little random little things that really aren't actually building towards this result that I'm looking for. And you spoke about this, and I thought, gee, this is fantastic wisdom. Tell me more about how you came to this, that you've got to just focus on the one thing for now and what it's brought to you in terms of emotional feel. How do you feel now that you've come to this?
It's so funny that you mentioned the one thing. I went to a training session on Thursday on the one thing, which is exactly what I was speaking to you about. And it was interesting that serendipitously I was at this training this week, and it highlights exactly what I was saying to you before. I had to remember and I had to ground myself back into something that I heard that resonated with me in the past. You can't chase and catch two rabbits at the same time. And I had my day job, which is enormously satisfying and something that has really helped me on many, many levels. And then I had my dream of starting my return to me business. And what I was doing was I was doing all these things at the same time. Plus, and Lisha, you know this, when you're in the online world and you are open to information coming through, 25 emails a day. I had 4 books that I was reading, and I wasn't doing anything properly. And I
300
thought,
lead magnets in your
well,
inbox every
exactly.
day.
I thought you need to simplify, you need to narrow down, and you need to put focus into what you're doing at the moment and do it well. And also, what that does is it opens up capacity and space to be more in a state of flow and receiving so that you're doing things just more effectively. And I felt that I needed that narrowing down and that calming down. And from being frenetic and coming from a space of panic, and I'm a great one for really getting myself into a state of stress, and I just needed to calm down. So my decision was to focus on my one thing at the moment, which is establishing my property business and supporting my children and creating that safe space while still improving on myself and learning about all of those things, but and then moving on to my return to me business. But it was a huge relief for me to let go of that busyness and that energy of trying to chase 205 things at the same time.
It is amazing. Once you actually decide on that one thing, it's very freeing. Like you say, you
It's
create
very
that
freeing.
space for flow. Whereas if you're kind of focusing on multiple things at once, oh, you've got no space for flow. That
Exactly,
makes sense.
exactly. And I think that the other thing that, and it was highlighted a lot in the training the one thing training I did on Thursday, which I knew before, but it really was wonderful to have it reiterated, was what is so important with all of this work and with just living at the moment is understanding your why, what your purpose is and what your why is at the end of the day. And I did the training during the day and I came home and I took out all my notes and my vision. And I really had to revisit that in terms of exactly what my purpose is now, medium term and long term, and my why. And that also makes it easier in terms of focusing in on what you really want.
I love that. Now, medium term and long term, because we tend to look at purpose as sort of this big picture. And so if you break it down into those segments, it makes it so much more accessible and manageable. Uh,
Absolutely.
that's great. Can you just Give us a little bit more on that. I'd love to learn more about that myself.
Well, I suppose, and it's a really powerful exercise. It's an imagining, it's a visualization of your ultimate big long-term vision, which is anything from 10 years to 25 years time in terms of all facets of your life, in terms of the pillars, whether it's your health, your where you want to live, but you've really got to use your imagination and your heart in terms of what you love and what brings you joy, and not limited by those limited beliefs that you and I know very well and that we've had to shed in the work that we're doing. It's really, really getting that long-term vision into sight. And then to bring it back into, okay, that's my long term, 10, 25 years. 5 years' time, how does this look for me? Which is your medium term. And then obviously your short term would be your a year from now. So it just I'm a very structured person and I love building blocks. So it's almost like building a building from blocks. And that for me works in terms of my thinking.
That's so useful. Thank you for sharing that. I was actually having a look yesterday at Kate Northrup, and she's one of the people that I really enjoy getting
Too.
little wisdom nuggets from, and she does a lot of nervous system work, as you were mentioning earlier, which I think is also very powerful. And she was saying that in their early days when she was trying to set up her online business, that she was offering 1,000 different affiliate offers. She was, providing 100 different solutions for things. She was, had all these different offers. And she said she was just like all over the place and they really weren't doing that well. And when she was saying this, I was like, oh, like slap me in the face again. I thought, oh my God, that's me. Um, and she was like, don't do that. Narrow it down to the one message, the one offer, and do that damn well. Oh, God. Okay, here we go. It's coming. It's smacking me in the face. And I'm going to talk to Lexi tomorrow about the one thing because I saw this yesterday and I thought, yes, Leisha, you're getting it over and over again. So
It's
there
so
you go.
interesting. And also to do it well and to go deep.
Yeah.
It's something else, Leisha, somebody else that I always love listening to, Stu McLaren, who does the most wonderful talks. And one of the pieces of advice that he gave, which really resonated with me hugely, especially because I can be, as I said to you, a million things I was subscribing to. I'm not joking. I think about 55 different emails each day. And every single one would be, oh, I need to do that. I need to do this. And he said, and it was such a great piece of advice, choose one path and do that. Don't let yourself try and venture out and follow 2 million different teachers out there who all offer amazing value and commit to one path. It all comes back to this one thing,
Yeah.
going deep, committing, and really, really concentrating on that rather than jumping all over the shop.
And Lexi, this skill can even be used in communication because my son and I have been doing this course with Vin Jiang, and he's one of these really great communicators. And he says that if you are a someone who tends to go off and ramble, about random things and you lose your focus, he says you can start your sentences off by saying, the one thing I want to tell you about this is. And what that does is it keeps you focused and it also helps the person that's listening to you focus in on, well, what is this amazing one thing of value that this person is going to share with me now? I'm waiting with bated breath because I want to know what this one thing is. It just has such substance and strength to it. Instead of saying,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you everything there is to know about real estate, being a real estate agent, you're going to say to someone, I want to tell you the one thing. It's the most important thing I've learned. Immediately, zoom, you zoomed in. you know. And so this one thing comes in everywhere. I take myself back to the tarot cards. I quite like the tarot cards, and the magician is the number one card, and he stands with his eyes closed, his one hand up, and the other hand is pointing down. You can't see right now. But what it's doing is you're getting this connection of, you know, coming in, whether it's from your knowledge, your wisdom, your consciousness, which is all around you anyway, and tapping into also cosmic connection through the heart. And you were speaking earlier about it must be heart driven as well. So it's coming through the heart and out the other side. Now, on his table, he has all these different instruments. There's the four things: the cup, the wands, the pentacles, and what's the last one? He's a total blank. It'll come to me. And he's not touching those. He's not even looking at those things on the table. And those are all different tools that can help you at different points in your life. But he's got his eyes closed, first of all. So he's not looking outside of himself for the answer. Secondly, he's in the still position, absolutely still. He's not running around like me, an octopus on roller skates, as we mentioned with Anne Wilson. She speaks of that. And sometimes that can be me all over the place, skidding here and there. He's
Exactly.
still and he's focused and he's pointing. So when you've got a point, you've got a direction. There's a focus and a direction, and boom, immediately you've got that narrowing and that focus coming into play. And then what he's actually doing and pointing to is the world dancer, which is right down in the bottom corner, and she's totally free. She is just at one. She's told the magician is dressed, so he's still got these kind of worldly concepts on him, but he's trying to figure this shit out. Whereas he's pointing down to the world dancer, and she is completely free. She's floating in this oneness, and, you know, she's got it all. She's the point of freedom. And that is return to me. Return to that point
Absolutely.
within and be free. Because I am free
Exactly.
already. I am the freedom. So she already knows it. He's still trying to figure it out. But it's always coming back to the one thing, and the stillness. So
And the focus.
yes, and the focus.
Yes,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me more about your day job. What exactly is it that you do in Johannesburg?
So I'm a real estate agent. I work in a partnership with somebody called Amanda, and we sell properties, residential, in an area called the Parks in Johannesburg.
Okay.
And it's been a relatively new career for me. I launched it. I had to, as I mentioned to you, I had to reinvent myself. I found myself in a situation with two children that I had to financially support them. And I had closed my business after COVID, and I had to reinvent myself and set myself up. And property is something that I love. I love networking. I love connecting, and I absolutely love real estate and homes. So it was almost a connection between what I enjoyed doing. And thankfully, it has been a career that has served me enormously well. And although it doesn't fill my passion that I think Return to Me does, it is a wonderful way of serving me where I need to be at the moment. And it does bring that connection in. I'm connecting people, I'm finding solutions for people, and that's what drives me.
Absolutely. And it's giving you the financial means to be able to someday set up your return to me business. We don't all have the capacity to just say, well, I'm just going to stop what I'm doing, hire people to set up my business for me that's
Okay.
based around, my passion, while I just sit back here and live off my investments that are, paying me dividends every month or whatever. Not everybody can do that. Some of us have to reinvent ourselves. I know Andrew and I have reinvented ourselves. We're always upskilling. And I mean, that's it. Like, I'm almost 50, Andrew's 54, I think. And we've had to reinvent ourselves. We've had to adapt. And, you can either sit back and decide you're a victim of circumstance and play that card, or you can upskill. You can learn new things. You can connect with a community that supports you. And I think your Return to Me offer is going to also offer a community of fantastic resources where women can learn how to stand on their own 2 feet financially, understand the financial world, which has been a huge problem for me. And thank God you introduced me to Ann Wilson, who then introduced me to Scott Picken. And the two of them together have just changed our worlds in terms of financial understanding. And I've still got so far to go with that. It's a huge area of my life that was massively lacking. But in terms of your Return to Me offer, I think the journey that you've been walking is adding to your toolkit that you're going to be offering the people that you'll be serving in the future. So it definitely has its place. And I think that's important for people to remember when they are busy creating their dream, if they can't afford to just outsource it to somebody else just to set it up for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the, I mean, and you know this so well because I talk to you about it often. The very core and one of the key principles that I feel so strongly about in Return to Me is sovereignty and agency and the ability for us to have our own agency. And I use that in the term of it's very, very linked to financial freedom. And particularly in a situation when women find themselves after divorce, they are often powerless because they don't have the agency of financial means behind them. And they are dependent often on their partners, their previous partners providing that to them. So it's very much a powerful part of what I believe so strongly in. And my route and my career in realty and property has taught me that sense of being able to do that on my own. So I've really lived the journey that I want to help people embark on and help them through.
You absolutely have. And I honor you for that because phew, it's a big one to walk. It's huge. So it's amazing. Well done, Lexi. You should really be so proud of yourself. And you've got such agency and so much wisdom. And, I'm so happy for you that you've decided you're focusing on your one thing. Fantastic. And at the same time, you've still got your passion you know, there. You haven't forgotten about that. You haven't,
Yeah,
just
no.
let it drop off. You know that you have value to offer, but you also know that you have to serve yourself in the process of creating that where you're going to be serving many others. And you've got one child in university, and I think your other child is schooling. So there's responsibilities, and we can't just sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. When we are trying to create a value offer that's going to help others, we have to also do what makes sense to support our everyday life as well. So
I
well
know. And
done.
you know what? Absolutely. One of the things that did confuse me, I think, last year was I knew that I needed to look for other opportunities for an income stream. And obviously, my passion project would hopefully be that in the future. But practically speaking, as you say, on a practical level, I think if you're doing an admin job that you're working from 9 to 4 and you can then switch over into your passion project, my difficulty with that is that my daytime real estate job takes an enormous amount of passion and energy. So it's
Yeah.
difficult to do those two things at the same time. And that's why I doubled down and thought I have to do the one thing that serves me now.
Yes. That's awesome. Congratulations for deciding on that. Thank you for sharing this wisdom with us. It's a phenomenal reminder to me, so I am so grateful. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure there's going to be many people that listen in on this and going to find this as a fantastic reminder. And I'll encourage them all to go and read The One Thing. It's a very good training, as you've said yourself. Um, it's just really very powerful. And thanks, Lex. Thank you so much.
Okay.